We have arrived at our destination. This is the final instalment of our midweek messages from Isaiah chapter 40. It's been a slow ramble through this remarkable chapter over the last couple of months, but an enjoyable one, I hope, as we've taken in all the sights along the way. So as we come to the end, well, you know how sometimes you read a novel and you really enjoy the story, but then the ending's a bit of a disappointment, an anticlimax. Well, I don't believe one bit that that's the case with Isaiah chapter 40. Here's the headline of our final section. The Lord not only has great strength and power, but also he gives great strength and power to all who hope in him. Well, you recall the context, the historical setting. It would be quite understandable for God's people, the nation of Judah, at this point in their story, to be feeling utter despair, at the bottom of the pit, sinking deeper in the depths, no way out. They had screwed things up. Rebellious children who spurned the Lord, they had forsaken him, turned away. Corrupt practices had become the norm, commonplace, sin upon sin. And even seeing the fall of the southern kingdom of Israel at the hands of Assyria as they came under God's judgment hadn't shaken this obstinate nation out of their rebellious, corrupt and evil ways. And chapter 39 closed with the revelation that Babylon is coming. This mighty nation would be the agent of God's judgment on them. And Babylon would defeat Judah, eject them from their homes, and take them into captivity. This is real, Isaiah said. There's no escape. It is happening. Well, receiving this news should lead to despair. But the message of chapter 40 explodes onto the scene. This message of comfort, this good news that's to be shouted from the mountaintops. And the result is that chapter 40 finishes with the opposite of despair. It finishes with hope. Let me read these final verses 27 to 31. As I do so, look out for the hope. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Well, let's break it down a bit. Verse 27. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Can you hear the despair in their voices, in their complaint? They're saying, where are you, Lord? Why have you abandoned us? Why don't you care? But wait, here comes the reply. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Well, know what? Heard what? Well, if you've been following through this chapter, you know what's coming next. It's got to surely be an awesome vision of the Lord, a revelation of his promises, his character, of who he is. Well, take a look. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. Expand your vision. He's even the creator of Babylon, where you'll be taken into exile. Well, we heard of his great power and mighty strength in verse 26. Here we discover how not human-like God is, if that makes any sense. Just take a look as we read on. He will not grow tired or weary. He doesn't need to curl up in bed every 24 hours of his life. He doesn't need a rest after a bit of heavy lifting or fast running. The heat of the summer does not leave the Lord struggling. Well, do you remember our headline for this last section? Not only is this what God is like, but this is what he gives to his people. He gives strength to the weary. Not only does he have strength, but he gives strength. He increases the power of the weak. Not only does he have power, but he increases the power of others. And he gives strength to, well, it's those that are weary. And he increases the power of, well, those that are weak. So if you are feeling weak or weary, Perhaps despair comes close to describing your experience of life right now. Perhaps you're all too aware of your own shortcomings, or you're just tired. Everything is just too much. Well, then this promise here is for you. Strength for the weary and power for the weak. Well, verse 30 almost teases us, doesn't it? Even youths grow tired and weary. Well, if that is true for the fittest of people, then it's certainly true for me. But thankfully, and we rejoice, there is still one last verse to go in this chapter. But it does not have to be that way. There is another option, and verse 31 contains an amazing promise in 4 parallel statements. It's the promise of renewed strength. For those with fading strength or failing faith, well, the Lord renews it. It feels like a Popeye moment as he swallows the spinach. Well, there's the promise of flying high, soaring on eagle's wings. God's promises give us a lift-off. It's the very opposite, isn't it, of sitting still in a pit of despair, soaring high on eagle's wings. Well, there's the promise to run and not grow weary. You can keep going. That is the promise. To walk and not be faint. The Lord will give you, his people, the strength to get through the dark times ahead. And he will give us the strength to stay faithful to him through the storms of life. Well, did you spot the very extremely vital and crucial bit that I skipped over? I'm going to conclude with this, because these promises are true for those who hope in the Lord. Those who hope. This is the message here. Actually, it doesn't say believe nor trust, but hope. Hope is trusting the Lord for the future. For them, it was about the future return from exile. And this event prefigures for us the return of Jesus. So we look forward to that day, trusting him in the present for all he has promised for the future. And as Isaiah now unfolds from here, the suffering servant is introduced to us and comes into view in the following chapters. It's a clear portrait of Jesus. And we realise that to hope in the Lord means to hope in Jesus. And we realise that the salvation God promises comes to us through his servant's suffering, through Jesus' death for us on the cross. So, because we are armed with this vision of God from Isaiah chapter 40, and because we are armed with the promises of God that are ultimately fulfilled in Jesus, when tough times come, we do not fall away. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint.